I know what you're thinking. It's the booth, drafting the circuits, three-way theater, or the Kevin Jackson show. Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I kinda lost track myself here on Hoobazoo.com. So, do you feel lucky, punk?
Hey, what's up? It's your boy Sinister One, and we are back here in the booth, broadcasting live from the City of Champions, Brockton, Massachusetts. We are being joined by All-American linebacker, former Seattle Seahawk and Oklahoma Sooner, the man himself, Mr. Brian Bosworth. What's going on, Brian?
Man, that's one great introduction. I don't think I've had one done that detailed. That's awesome. I'm doing great. Thanks, guys.
Man, and this is a guy, he's been in the business for a long time. He's now doing movies. You've had this life in football. I can't wait to ask you a couple questions here, but we've got you on here today to talk about this movie, Revelation Road. Now, we were able to interview Sting a few weeks ago, and it was a good time, good interview. I was able to catch this movie, and not only is this a movie that brings conscious awareness, but it's also a movie that kind of changed your life. I want you to kind of get into this movie and how it actually changed your life, man.
Well, it was a godsend because I wasn't looking for work per se. I was actually looking to move back out of California and go home to Texas and kind of start over. And I'd gotten to the point where for the last 30 years, I would say, I've had this ongoing grudge and feud with God. I'm not one of those people that didn't know God existed. I knew He existed. As a matter of fact, I had a good relationship with Him when I was young. We had a pact. I felt that pact was something that was between us, and I asked Him for help when the time I needed help. And He was there, and He delivered, and, He helped me get my dreams to come true. And then somewhere along the path, by my own choices, or choices that were made around me, I went from what I explain as I went from Brian Bosworth to the Boz. And that to me is where I decided that I wanted to take the training wheels off and say, you know what, God, I got it from here. I don't need you anymore. And it's clear when I look back on it. But when you do that, when you feel like you're confident enough to walk in this world alone and think you don't need help and you don't need Jesus Christ as the man standing right next to you, filling up your heart and giving glory back to the one who gave it to you to begin with, that's when bad things begin to happen. And that's when bad things started happening to me. And instead of me taking that moment and reflecting on what was happening, I got mad and I became grudgeful. So when this film came to me, my life was full of nothing but caca. I mean, I just had a plate full of nothing, of bad choices. And I sat down, I read the script, and I put it down, and man, it heart shook me. It rocked my world, because for the first time I had seen on page in black and white what was the mirror image of me. Mean, hateful, spiteful, vengeful, had a grudge against God, wanted to hurt God in any way possible for the things that He had taken away from me. And that's what I took off the page. Now, it wasn't really there, but I could see and feel viscerally what was the character was asking for. And I was that character. So I took that as a godsend of Him waking me up and say, all right, are you ready? Are you ready to come home? Because if you're ready to come home, let me see what you're going to do and how much you're willing to go and how far you're willing to go. And then let's talk about it. And I think that's when you get to a point when you're in a grudge with somebody. You got to get to that point where you say, all right, I've had it. I can't take it anymore. The walls of my prison are so thick that I need help. And, as fast as you think you can run, God can run just a little bit faster than you can. And He's got a little bit more stamina than you do. So he's always going to be there, but you got to have enough courage to stop, turn around, and ask him, brother, would you come back in my heart and help me? Because I can't do it alone.
Wow, that's a very powerful point because here I'm doing this interview with you, but then outside my life, I have some struggles going on. And when I talked with Steve Borden AKA Sting, I told him I watched this movie, and there was some things that jumped out at me and grabbed me, and realized that that I have to believe in my faith because you're right. There are times where you come and you feel like you've lost faith. You feel that God has left you, and you're right. God never leaves you. You got to get God back into your life to make you feel happy, make you feel one. And I'm great to hear you bringing up that point. That's a great point. And I bless you, man. But what was it like to work with Steve Sting Borden? Now, I mean, I've followed Sting's career, and Sting has always been that Christian guy throughout his career. So for him to be in a film like this, it didn't surprise me. But for you, like you said, this was new. You were kind of apprehensive to taking this film. I mean, did Sting, when off camera, were you guys able to talk about things on a Christian religious level?
That's the good thing. I think Sting and the production company in general, and the production company is a faith-based production company, and I knew that. I was actually warned by my agent when he sent me the script. He goes, "Look, I'm going to send you the script, but I got to warn you, it's a Christian movie." And of course, my reaction was my eyes rolled back in the back of my head and go, "Oh, great, one of those."
Right.
When I got on the set, I just assumed that I was going to get beaten to death with, this coming from all sides. But everybody was very respectful. And the thing about the Word and the thing about accepting Jesus is nobody can force you to accept Jesus Christ. Nobody give you that special clue or the phrase that's just going to trigger it. It comes from you. You have to choose it. You have to come with your eyes wide open, your ears ready to hear, and your heart ready to receive, or the message is going to get missed. So if you're not in that place, then it's just going to go right through one ear and right out the other. For me, I was to that place, and that's why I was saying, I got to the point where I just couldn't fight anymore. So being on the film around that, it didn't facilitate it or make it any stronger for me. If anything, it was playing the character and seeing everybody else just be themselves, and then you organically and naturally come to that place when it's your time. And when it's your time and you get there and you accept it, brother, I can't even describe how good that feels. It's awesome.
I can hear, and I hear the emotion in your voice, and I hear that this is definitely changing. Now you're on this successful promotional tour for this movie, and you took yourself through Oklahoma, which is where you attended college. You did this for a reason, and what was it like to go back to where you kind of became this man, Brian Bosworth?
Well, I took it back there for a purpose. I didn't know at the time why I was taking it back there. I just woke up one day because the film was only intended to be it's only one script, so it was only intended to be a one part. But as we were shooting it, kept getting longer and longer and longer. So they had to make a decision, and instead of cutting it, and because there was so much good stuff there, and the message was there, and it was powerful, and because I think he was working, the producers decided we're going to make a part 1 and part 2. But the company had always agreed that they were going to release part 1 and pre-sell it, to DVD. But somewhere I just woke up one day and I said, something, I feel compelled that I have to take this film. I mean, I could just let it, like the rest of my film, just get released and get lost or forgotten or be seen on HBO real late at night for those guys that can't sleep. Or I can do something with it because it's doing something with me. So I decided to ask the production company, can I have the film and I want to take it home? When I say home, Oklahoma is my home. I'm an Oklahoman. That's who I am.
Right.
And those people have always been there for me, and I wanted them to remember who I was, and not who I left as. And that was the struggle that I had because I felt like I was always fighting myself to a certain degree. So when they gave me permission, I go, oh no, now I'm in trouble because now I'm going to have to really do this. So I started calling towns I've never even heard of, and one thing led to another, and the next thing I know, I've got 17, 18 towns that have me ready to come in and screen this film without knowing anything about the film. They're just going off of faith and trusting that I'm coming, and they're excited about that I'm coming.
Right.
And when I get there, I start to think about, well, now I've got to deliver something, and I don't know, what am I going to deliver? And I just said, you know what, I've always been honest. Let me just go down there and just speak. Let me just talk about who I am, where I've been, where I've come from. And at the end of the film, I go down and I talk, and the first 2 times I'd gone down to the first 2 cities, and the first movie ends at the rapture. Mm-hmm. And I went down there and I said, all right, so if the rapture was to happen tomorrow, which we know it's going to happen, we don't have a clock on it, we just know it's going to happen, how many of you guys are ready to go? Are you prepared? Do you think you're going? And 3/4 of the audience raised their hand. Mm-hmm. And I said, I got to be honest, I know I'm not going. I know I don't have a ticket. And then I did that the second showing. And then I went to the third showing, and the third showing was at a church, and a pastor came up to me, and he invited me to the church prior to the screening, and I spoke at the church, and some powerful things happened to me there. And then we got to the screening, and I did the same thing at the screening, but I changed it a little bit because something had happened. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I went down and I said, so if this rapture was to happen tomorrow, how many of you guys are going? And almost everybody in Chickasha, Oklahoma raised their hand because they were all from the church.
Right.
And I said, you know what? I don't think I'm going, but I would like to. So if you guys would pray for me, that would be awesome. Wow. That's the day I got saved. Now, from that moment on, just the weight of all of that anger that I had held for 30 years, gone. I mean, like a flash, just gone. And then since then, it's been this wonderful journey of just going out and helping other people realize that you don't control what happens to you on this planet. The only thing you control is what happens to your soul, because that's the only thing that you own. That's the only thing you can barter with. Your house, your car, your jewelry, your furs, they stay here. The only thing that gets to go is your soul. So the 25,000 days that you get to stay here, you think is an eternity, is a blink of the eye to God. If you really want eternal life and love, you got to ask Him. That's an unbelievable feeling to know. You know, and I was talking to another radio station earlier up in Boston about the tragedy that happened up there.
Yes.
And it is a tragedy, and that's what's going on with our world. It's crazy. And to walk out your front door with the fear that anything could happen at any time to you at any moment is real. But the one thing that you can control is when your time comes, and you don't know when it is going to come, if you know your soul is saved, you'll be good with it. So if some tragedy takes you out or loved one out, yes, it's tragic, but the tragic thing on top of it would be, man, my brother went and he wasn't saved. He was waiting. What a tragedy. Because now that's a soul that doesn't get to go. So that's our goal. Our goal is to save as many souls as we can save.
Man, and you know, like I said, it was a powerful message when I watched this movie. At the end, there was a powerful message, and like I said, I can't wait till September to see this second film, in when it comes out, and be able to check this out, because I watched this movie, and your character does seem to be struggling with himself, especially when the rapture happens. Just tell people where they can pick up the film, man.
I know that it's been released here recently, so you can get it at Target, you can get it at Walmart, you can get it at Netflix. Mm-hmm. You can go to my fan page, and I'm actually signing them and sending them to people. Wow. So if you go to fan page, you go fan page Brian Bosworth /44. Okay. Send in a request. the company's given me so many of them that I can now sign them, and I can send them out to people, and I got movie posters and stuff. So go there and you can process an order. If you got to do it on a laptop or a desktop, or like I said, you can go to Target, you can go to pureflix.com, you can go to Walmart, Redbox. That one's released now. The second one, like I said, gets released sometime toward the end of summer, and that's really where the climax happens between the two souls. My soul, who's that vengeful soul, and the other soul, Josh, who's played by David A.R. White. He's one of those souls that we all know. Hey, you know what? God just doesn't work for me. I appreciate that he works for you, but you know what? He doesn't work for me in my life because I refuse to let him in. Wow. I know he's there, and I've turned my back on him. So I'm the guy that a lot of people know as well. There's a lot of players, a lot of characters in the film people can identify with. I'm a lot like him. I'm a lot like him. I'm a lot like her. So there's a message in there for everybody, and I just can't emphasize enough that this is something that needs to be in your film library. It has to be in the library.
You know, you've had this film career. We've seen you in The Longest Shot, but everybody remembers you as Joe Huff, Stone Cold, a movie that was it was a cult classic. And I think people gave you a lot of crap because you were coming off this NFL career, and for some reason the media didn't like you, and it bothered me because I'm a big NFL guy, and I loved you when you were in the NFL, and I think you got a bad rap when you were in the NFL. 1987 was the NFL madman era. They had you, they had Dexter Manley, Lyle Elzado just retired, Lawrence Taylor, Bill Romanowski just was in the league for like 2 years. So defenses came with that cockiness, that in-your-face attitude. What do you got on the future horizon? Because we're hearing there's a possibility that you and Wesley Snipes may be joining this cast of Expendables 3, man.
Everybody keeps saying that, and I haven't. I see it all the time, but I haven't got any confirmation on it. I actually just saw Expendables 1 for the first time the other day. It looks like a fun flick that you could get involved with. I'd have to read the script. And at this point in time, where my life and my faith is, you know, brother, unless it does something to push forward, you know, a good message, I'd have to struggle with it a little bit. I understand business is business, and you got to make money to survive and stuff. But I want to continue to try to do what God's given me this extra gift for. So I want to make sure that I continue to do that. I know we're talking right now about doing Revelation Road 3 and possibly 4, and then I've got a 5-picture deal with this company that's sitting on the table we may end up doing. But to me, you know, as long as God provides what I need, you know, I might not get what I want. I might not get the Ferrari. That's okay. I'm cool with my truck. As long as I get a bike, I'm good. I can't take it with me anyway. There is no U-Haul going to heaven, and there ain't no hitches on hearses. So as long as I got what I need, and he provides with all the things that I can do to help facilitate his word, I'm good, and he'll give me the special gifts when he sees fit that I should have them, you know, and I'm good with that. You know, I've got a beautiful wife, and I've got 3 great kids, and I'm loving life. So I'm just taking it one day at a time, and I'm blessed that I got today, and I'm thankful if I get tomorrow.
I got to ask a couple of quick NFL questions because I do have the man, Brian Bosworth, on with us. 2 quick questions. First of all, NFL rule changes right now. Everybody is saying that they're the wussification of America, ruining the sport, and some say it's for the sake of the possible lawsuit, which is what my second question is about. But what do you think about these rule changes? I mean, now running backs are going to have to keep their heads up when going outside the tackles, man. I think you're going to see more back injuries, if anything.
Well, I mean, the game's definitely changed a lot. I mean, I guess you go back and if you watched when I played when I was healthy that first year, because remember I got hurt that last game in my rookie year, and then that second year was just a disaster. I was playing, you know, with a broken wing, but even still, I programmed myself back in those days to hit high, and I always went for the head because the head, wherever the head goes, the body has to follow. So I would grab the head of every player that I could get my hands on, because that's just the way that I program I would have to reprogram myself to hit in a different manner, or just continue to write checks every single week, you know, in fine money.
Right.
Do you understand a little bit about the player safety? And the reason for that is because the game is now not played just within the hash marks. The game is so spread out now, and the speed of the impacts that are coming from 10 and 15 yards away are dangerous. And the ones that I do agree with are the ones where you're hitting an unprotected player, but that's such a fine line when a defensive back has to play through the ball. Mm-hmm. Every player in playing a wide receiver is an unprotected player because he ain't looking at anything but the ball.
Exactly.
So by definition, they're all unprotected. I'm unprotected as a linebacker when I get crackbacked on. So if somebody's going to earhole me, I'm unprotected. The game of football is a violent game, and we know that. And we know that when we go in, and nobody walks away from that game uninjured. I know they want to keep players from getting, injured, and I just don't know that it's possible. Maybe slow the game down, and I don't know if you can do that because the players get stronger and faster.
Right.
And the way the ball, maybe you got to limit the number of times you can pass the ball. I don't know, but if you're going to have the game spread out and compartmentalized where you got guys out on islands and you got other guys flying at them, I don't see how you're going to do anything but hurt players by telling them, stop doing what you've been taught for the last 20 years and now do it this way or you're going to get fined. It does create an issue where you're going to get injuries in other ways.
Last question. Right now, there's a lot of focus on these concussions and the connection to NFL suicides. I'm up here in New England where we just had Junior Seau last year, took his own life. And a lot of these guys are trying to say it's from concussions. In my opinion, I feel sometimes, and you found Jesus in your life to make you happy right now. I feel that there are a lot of guys out there that it's not just concussions. I think guys are dealing with depression of not feeling wanted no more, not having that purpose no more because, football players come up from peewee years, from young years. Then you're into two-a-days at college, two-a-days in pro ball. Then you have these guys who are doing 10, 13, 15 years of football professionally. It's got to be depressing to come out of the NFL and try to assimilate a normal life, raising a family, and not having that want, not having that purpose. And like I said, I know you found God. Is this another reason why we see these suicides?
You hit the nail on the head. The entire decade of the 90s, I was depressed and suicidal. Up until I found a purpose. And I still feel like I'm a football player. My heart and soul is still playing football. You can't take the football player out of a football player just because you tell him you can't put the suit on anymore. And we do have to go through some sort of mental processing of understanding there's got to be something else that I can take all of this energy that I've put into this body to do the one passion that I have and accept I can't do it anymore. You just can't do it anymore. They won't let you do it anymore. So you sit around the house going, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have anything to do. And it does become very dark and depressing. And there has to be a program that comes up with something. I got into other stuff. I got into scuba diving and I did some crazy stuff. I didn't really care. I lived my life on the edge. I got into motorcycles and I ride bikes a lot. I do things during the 90s where I just didn't care. If my life is gone, it's gone. At least I don't have to live with the pain. And until you find that purpose, and this movie was that for me. It gave me a purpose. At least it gave me an opportunity to understand that God has a purpose for all of us. And the book does change, and the page changes, and sometimes what you see on the other side of the page may not be what you want, but again, it's what you need. So just accept that you do have a purpose. And the concussions, I had college concussions back in those days. You got your bell rung. And then when those stars stopped going past your head, then you were okay to go back out and play. So the old times, we understand what that was, but I don't see a whole bunch of old-time guys back in the 80s and 70s, committing suicide. I think there is something deeper. So wherever Junior was at that time, I think he was in a dark place, and maybe he just needed somebody around him. I can't say. I'm just speculating. But I wish I had a moment to sit down with Junior and share with him a little bit of what filled my heart up, because maybe that might help him get to a place where he has a purpose. Share all of that greatness that you had, that God gift you have. Let's take it and let's give it to some other kids in some other way. That gives me a purpose, being able to share that message. So, you know, I feel for the guys that get depressed. I'm one of them. I still stay depressed. But you got to pick yourself up. And that's part of what life is. It's hard, man. It's hard to just get up in the morning and say, you know, I just got to get up and go. But say a prayer every day. God, help me. Give me the courage, give me the wisdom, and give me the fortitude to get through the day so I get the blessing in tomorrow. And I promise you, you'll have an opportunity that tomorrow will come and you get to do it all again. You never know who you're going to impact on that day. But if you don't go through the day with some positive thoughts, all you're doing is sending negative out, and it brings the whole world down. And that's your responsibility. You're here for a purpose. Find it and embrace it, and then give glory to him. And man, I promise you, he's gonna give you the things you need.
Brian, man, I want to thank you for coming on the booth with us on Hoobazoo Network and Hoobazoo.com. Dude, thanks for spilling it with us. And you know what? I'm glad that we had you on this show, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Appreciate it.
No problem. All right, this is Sinister One. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to be back with more Booth after this on Hoobazoo.com.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to The Booth on Hoobazoo and HatcherRadio.com. Please follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. The Booth is a Sinister One production hosted by Sinister One.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I smoke, I drink, I do my thing. These bitches hating, so you know I got to make it plain. Don't do cocaine with your chick, my main. We stick together, true forever, yeah, you know we bang. I miss those days, which was easy. If only I made it, bitch, don't repeat. Now that I done upgraded, I've been upstate, and y'all think I'm playing. And I got a hit now for these weak assholes who think I ain't slaying. Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing, cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit, I got my own now. I get hurt, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything, I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website.